ගරු අමාත්‍ය වසන්ත සේනානායක.
Honourable Chairperson, the government of President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Wickremesinghe took many extroverted strides to end the self-imposed isolation from the rest of the world that Sri Lanka had persistently embarked upon in the previous years. The Good Governance government sought to re-establish links with traditional allies and to forge new links and new alliances with more recent friends in the international arena. In achieving this, Honourable Member, it was most logical to commence at the closest point, which of course is between Dhanushkodi, India and Talaimana. Thus the confidence and goodwill of our closest neighbour became a matter of paramount importance in formulating Sri Lanka's foreign policy. We are all aware of times in our post-independence history where the Indo-Lanka relationship was not at its best. And so the government worked sincerely to once again win the trust and respect of neighbouring India. This is why Prime Minister Modi continues to offer us his support quite so often. He even honoured this country with a state visit so as to participate in the International Vesak Festival this year in May. Another testament to our friendship is the sincerity with which the Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj bravely waded into the Pork Straits issue and gave Sri Lanka an unequivocal commitment to entirely stop the intrusion of Indian fishermen in our waters. This, as you know, Honourable Member, has been a persistent irritant in the Indo-Lanka relationship. Such friendly interactions are only possible due to the mutual trust that this government has successfully developed. A significant initiative known as the Blue Revolution Deep Sea Fishing Scheme has now been initiated by the Tamil Nadu government. This program was launched by Prime Minister Modi in July this year, with the central government allocating as much as 1,500 crores over the next few years to encourage South Indian fishermen away from the environmentally destructive practice of bottom trawling and instead to promote deep sea fishing. The Indian government has also decided to refrain from registering boats and persons who violate the ban on bottom trawling in the Pork Bay, and finally acknowledging and remedying the injustice to the Sri Lankan fishermen and the adverse consequences to the marine environment. India and Sri Lanka are not merely friends, we are kith and kin. Both the Sinhalese and Tamil communities claim descent from India, albeit from different areas of India. The two most dominant religions, Buddhism and Hinduism, can be regarded as precious gifts that we received from India. Sinhala and Tamil language, traditions, customs, literature, art, song and culinary and cuisine have been shaped by Indian influence. We enjoy a free trade agreement with India, and if we use this to our fullest benefit in an intelligent manner, we can enjoy a market which is over 1.2 billion from India alone. We can move mountains with India on our side, and this government has fully secured the confidence of India. Again, speaking of friends, we must also recognize the great contribution made by China as a dependable friend in both good times and in adversity. As far back as 1950, Right Honourable D.S. Senanayake saw the usefulness in establishing diplomatic links with China. The Rubber Ice Pact of 1952, initiated by Prime Minister Dudley Senanayake and Minister of Commerce R.G. Senanayake, not only cemented the links between the two countries, but also highlighted the independent foreign policy decision that a little country like Ceylon had the courage to take, despite the weight of many friendly Western nations exerting significant pressure that Ceylon should refrain from contracting with China. With hindsight, the Rubber Ice Agreement has almost universally been hailed as one of the greatest historic agreements entered into by independent Ceylon. The close friendship in Sino-Lanka relations grew to ever loftier heights during Madam Sirimao Bandaranaike's premiership and served us as a rock-solid international ally during President Rajapaksa's tenure. China helped him to combat terrorism internally in this country, both in the form of economic and military assistance and by crucial support at international fora, where the Sri Lankan situation was either genuinely or deliberately misunderstood. China now continues to support the great development goals and aspirations of the Sirisena Wickremesinghe government in bringing good governance and solid economic growth. Edifices to the China friendship stand conspicuously in the form of the BMICH, the Lotus Tower, the Nelum Pokuna, and of course, the Port City complex will also be surely one in the near future. Honourable Member, I think I ought to take a moment to mention the name of Lord Naseby, at least very briefly, since it appears to be the most popular name in Parliament this month. Lord Naseby is a soldier that fights for what is right, and I have had the privilege to meet him and speak with him on many an occasion. His efforts were even very recently at an adjournment debate proposed by Honourable Dinesh Gunawardena, accepted and hailed by me in my capacity as State Minister of Foreign Affairs. The President's letter to Lord Naseby, which followed my own highly publicised letter to him, was tabled on that occasion because, due to some inexplicable reason, the fact that the President had in fact commended Lord Naseby had eluded both the local and international media. The insinuation that therefore the government, and in particular the Foreign Ministry, does not regard Lord Naseby's revelations as useful is certainly not correct. What certain officials of my ministry have tried to articulate, albeit unsuccessfully, is that this information can be invaluable if used appropriately at the right time and the most pertinent forum. The correspondence of Colonel Gash, which he has given us, along with the findings of Gordon Weiss, the University Teachers for Human Rights, the unpublished report of the United Nations Country Team, the Paranagama Commission report, and many other documents based on genuine findings and accounts have reached similar conclusions based on logic. The number of missing persons may vary slightly from report to report, but it is true to say they all fluctuate within the range of 7,000 to 8,000 figure, which coincidentally is the range that has been put forward by the Government Census Department also. To push the international community into accepting these figures as correct and to relegate Darusman and his findings based on guesswork, hearsay, and unsubstantiated terrorist propaganda posing as factual documentaries, the place it deserves can only be the garbage bin of history. But this country must first engage in a truth-seeking mechanism internally. This cannot happen unless this is done. Now, there is no question that such a mechanism must be a domestic one. And the notion of foreign judges, though suggested as an option, can and must be viewed only in that light, as an option which we are free to accept or reject as we like. Such an option may have, I think, been originally included with a view of securing foreign expertise, if we so required it. In any event, our Constitution bequeaths judicial functions and capacity to a hierarchical court structure, of which the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka is at the apex. There is therefore no constitutionally recognized manner in which some extraneous body or source can hear cases or deliver judgments of issues that need to come before the established judicial process here in Sri Lanka. Honourable Member, I can personally assure the House that if any measure was underway, either to jeopardize the sovereignty of this country or undermine the integrity of Sri Lanka's judiciary, that I would have been the first to revolt against this government. The government has changed Sri Lanka's image in Western nations. We are now viewed as democratic, as promoting fundamental rights and contributing to the Committee of Nations. Upon independence, we had good links with the West, and in Britain in particular. As Britain itself pulls itself out of the European Union, they may themselves look for their old Commonwealth allies. The world has changed much since independence, but we may still find a useful role to play with Britain. We, unlike our neighbor India, did not suffer strikes, agitations, and bloodbaths to win our freedom. Although we had our struggles, which included incarcerations of our leaders, which included my own great-grandfather, the Right Honourable D.S. Senanayake, our independence was negotiated artfully and skillfully. And we continued with much of the existing colonial structures of constitution and government unchanged. The singularly most powerful agreement entered from a foreign policy view was the defense agreement with Britain. And so we and Britain transformed ourselves from former roles as colony and colonial master to that of strongest allies. While forging ahead and forming bonds with emerging nations in Africa and South America, it is also prudent to re-establish traditional bonds and relationships. Our policy, as articulated by our President, is a policy of goodwill to all and enmity to none. That, then, is the policy of our ministry. Thank you.